China, can't live with it, can't live without it. On one hand, we've got great Huawei phones. On the other, we have TikTok censorship. We'll talk about both on the Android Police podcast.
It's Monday, November 4th. Welcome. I'm Cody Toombs along with Jules Wang. Let's start off with a big story for today, and that is the Play Store is now running a new loyalty program called PlayPoints. It's actually not brand new. This has been in Japan for about a year, and it came to South Korea earlier this year in April. But the basic premise is, like every loyalty program, you get points for the things that you purchase, and those points can go back into purchasing new things in the future. So you get points on apps, movies, music, books, pretty much anything that you can purchase through the Play Store itself.
Including in-app purchases, by the way.
Oh, indeed. And this actually just notably does not include things like devices. So those are still two separate stores. But any points that you gain can go back into purchasing things in the future. You can also donate them to charities. So if you're feeling like helping people get clean water or setting up Doctors Without Borders, those are some of the destinations. There's going to be 4 levels in this thing. It's a loyalty program with different tiers. So everyone automatically starts at the bronze level. And then depending on how much you spend, you can go up to silver, gold, or platinum, each one with higher weekly bonuses, higher multipliers, various weekly events. The whole thing's just kind of a lot more complicated than it needs to be, but basically prizes. Yay, stuff.
Yay, stuff. So this is going to roll out over the next week. You'll find a new section. I mean, supposedly you'll just also see a pop-up eventually when it rolls out on the Play Store for you. And if you sign up, you don't have to pay anything. It's free. First week of purchases, you'll get 3 times the points. So that should start you off pretty good. But here's the argument that I've been losing in our work Slack here, and that has been that this is not so much a case about, competing with Apple or even for Google's own, retainment purposes. They're trying to keep people in the Play Store. I feel like they've realized that out of every source for movies, music, ebooks, audiobooks, even by the fact that they're there, then they're offering stuff in those categories. They're competing, and they're competing against Netflix, Hulu, Audible, Amazon, all those players. And I feel like there has to be some sort of, all right, how do we make people more aware or more willing to buy from us rather from them? Because I don't know, I feel like it's closer to a zero-sum game than some people think, but not exactly, because there's the fact that, well, at the end of the day, you're still talking to Android users, and any cent that you gain from them is basically just one for the home team. Right? It's like it was in the ecosystem in the first place. So, but I'm wondering what you think in terms of this play.
Well, I wasn't part of the discussion in the Slack chat earlier, but I do generally hold to the notion that this is it's mostly about incentivizing people to make purchases. I don't think, I mean, I'm sure there's some level of competition here. Anytime you can do something that incentivizes purchases, you're also effectively trying to incentivize people to stick to your own platform. But if you're comparing specifically, actually, Netflix, I think, is a great example of one where it really isn't competitive, because they're two completely different models. Really, if someone's paying for Netflix, they're paying for all of Netflix and getting everything that comes with it. Whereas the atomic purchases with a Play Store, you're really only just buying one thing at a time or doing a rental or something like that. So overall, I think it's really just about getting people to spend more money in overall. And for the most part, if I this is something that will help out developers a little bit. This is a way to sort of just get more activity going on. And I forget what it's called, but there's actually a uh, I how I some phenomenon where once you get somebody to start spending money, even if it's a dollar or even a few cents, that sort of breaks the bubble and makes them more comfortable with spending money in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, it's some sort of not Murphy's Law, but one of those adages that goes in that place. Yeah, I mean, I can totally. There are plenty of situations where using the Play Store to make fill-in purchases, whereas you're going for Netflix original series. Oh boy, the glut of original series on all these platforms is kind of just crazy. I don't know. Perhaps I mean, like Google's just a distributor. It's not doing anything creative of its own.
Well,
Um,
unless you count in
is it-
YouTube.
unless you count YouTube, but it's definitely been separated, walled off from this instance. I'm wondering if there could be more going on, or if the, the wall should be broken down a little bit here
Uh, yeah,
between YouTube and Play.
oh, I think I think we're actually kind of past that point, given that things that used to be under the Play moniker have actually been transferred over to YouTube, including Play Music specifically, and then Play Movies on the back end is already completely operated by YouTube. It's just technically still under the Play umbrella, I believe.
Yeah,
But
and
regardless, like
most of the streaming
they're
stuff.
moving
Yeah,
things over.
yeah, most of the streaming stuff is YouTube style now, but you're still, you can still buy download albums, and pay the Google Play Music. It's a more convoluted method of doing things, but yeah, I don't know. Perhaps there's. See, I put you to shh, and you didn't shh, and I thought you shh, but you know what? Uh, Google, good job. Thank you. All right. Shall we move on to our next topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. So, let's talk about a couple things that have, our relationship with China as the US is kind of very complex, and it's fraught with many issues. And, well, we could talk about many, many, many of them at this point that, center around tech. I want to at least get to TikTok, the big social video app that's been burning up your feeds, and you get those duets and uh, with one creepy guy, trying to match up with another person. Man, those are you know interesting to watch. But in any case, let's talk about corporate stuff. So its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, is now being investigated, according to Reuters, by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. Now, there haven't been any details on what's exactly the focus of this investigation, but because ByteDance didn't go to the CFIUS when they purchased TikTok's creator, Musically, which was based in the US back in 2017. The committee finds it that they can actually pursue an investigation on this matter. So we've seen several concerns over TikTok and how it's managed, boil over. And this goes into the larger scheme of what China does in terms of how it censors online content. And because, there's a notion that ByteDance is a Chinese company and it follows Chinese censorship rules that it goes and it's applied to pretty much the rest of the world, because it's, they have over 1 billion installs on the Play Store and the App Store right now. And there have been notable absences of LGBT plus content, as well as any topics that involve the dissent of some Chinese practices, such as the Hong Kong protest right now, or Tibet, or the Uyghurs. And that's that's been concerning to I guess a cadre of U.S. politicians, mostly Republican, but there's just been a general unearthing of the Red Scare, I guess you could say. So ByteDance says, for its part, that it used to operate under old content curation guidelines, but now employs regional moderators and follows laws in their respective countries. It doesn't explicitly say whether they have a policy of censoring out stuff that would fall under the firewall's realm. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at this point with TikTok. We have another story here with Huawei, and that's been going through the ringer in terms of the US-China trade talks. And we've been watching the situation with the entity list, the imports ban that they've had to undertake from the US for national security reasons. A lot of politics at play in that. But for 6 months now, we've been talking about Huawei not being able to get supplies from the US. Or use US IP in their products. Of course, that led up to the conversation about having Android or Google services lopped off any phones that they sell outside of China. And they do have a presence. Half their business comes from China in terms of consumer phones. So that's pretty darn important. So Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross told Bloomberg that the two countries are actively negotiating a wide trade deal, and that right now businesses in the U.S. that do business with Huawei on a regular basis will get special licenses to trade with Huawei shortly. Now, over 260 suppliers have made this request for the special license that they need to trade with Huawei. And but it's been months and months waiting for some sort of certainty for this. Huawei has had a general temporary license to trade in the meantime, but that is really only for tying up loose ends in terms of ending U.S. relationships and finding other sources. So now there's been the question of whether it will be able to continue doing business even throughout this tense, terse negotiation period between DC and Beijing. So with all that has been said, how do we gauge our relationship in terms of technology, because God knows how much stuff we get from China, with China at this point? Because it's the art versus the artist question, but we're talking about multilateral policies that affect different behaviors when it comes to buying, or when it comes to data, or when it comes to just hanging out on the internet.
Well, at this point, we've got such a political hotbed going on that I would almost say we just can't stop talking about China. And when I hear like the TikTok story, part of me wonders if this is just a case of somebody needs to keep a finger pointed at China just because. I don't know how much TikTok is necessarily doing anything that terrible, but at a bare minimum, it's just something that everyone wants to investigate. There has to always be a new investigation on everything. So I'm skeptical that anything really big is going to come up aside from the typical like regulatory you should have asked sort of stuff. As far as
Yeah.
Huawei goes,
Mm.
my interest is I want to see what actually comes of this. Is this going to be another back and forth? We've seen the tug of war before. And also I kind of want to see if there's going to be an undoing of previous things. Like, just for example, will the Mate 30 Pro end up getting an update that just brings Google apps back to it? Like that seems like something that should just happen, or maybe at least be offered, I guess.
Well, they have tens of thousands of people to work on updates for that. I mean, they'd be kind of in a crunch mode if they ever hear that, oh, hey, we're allowed to trade with Google again. So,
Well, I would go
mean,
so far as to guess they probably already have the update ready to ship. If not completely ready, very, very close to it. That way it would be in almost day one, like before they change their mind, let's get this out there.
yeah, that's crossing of fingers to be had over there. But I mean, we've seen so much uncertainty, and with the president that we have in office right now, who has been quite, I think, safe to say, unpredictable, and the whole whatever he touches becomes unpredictable, becomes uncertain, and we might be left out for months more, perhaps, of just not knowing, or things not moving in the right direction. But if things are as close as they say they are right now, um, I don't know. I think there's some hope to be had. Um, but whatever happens in that case, Huawei is going to be working towards the fastest approach to getting things back into order. So you can be assured of that.
Yeah, this is going to be, I feel like the drama is not over. There will be more to this, and I'm just hoping that it's not the full on allow them back in and then turn around and cancel them again, and just a constant back and forth. One thing that strikes me is, after all of this, we've still never heard anything about the supposed spyware aspect of the phones that they had previously been accused of. All the security talk seemed to just vanish the moment that it came back to negotiating trade.
I think
All of that just went away.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the things that they've been palming around as just like as something to always have in hand. But what's kind of more important, I feel like, has been brought up by Jan Solo in our chat here. I wonder if the Huawei CFO, who is in Canada right now, I think undergoing a trial, or is being held at least. She's being charged for fraud in terms of a whole bunch of charges against the company as well. And that is for breaching sanctions by doing trade in Iran and North Korea. The Department of Justice is still working on that. Will she and or Huawei walk away with just a big fine or something else? And you'd hate to really see politics interfere with the judicial branch, and like something that you're trying to find the facts and determine wrongdoing. But there is prosecutorial discretion in terms of what you want to go for, and depending on how we assess the ultimate impact of, okay, perhaps we do want to work with Huawei again, how can we punish them to the point where it hurts enough, but still makes it possible for us to actually work with them. Something like a ZTE, we're not sure, but that's a line that they'll have to toe, and not necessarily us.
I think we can objectively agree that politics interferes with everything these days.
Yeah, politics interferes with me waking up because I have to think about it, and yeah. It's not fun thinking about it.
Anyway, so unless you've got anything else
Yeah, no, that's my say. That's my bid. How about you?
Uh, well, I I really just have one thing I think we should say. Android
What
Police
is
is
that?
live on Twitch 4 times a week. But we can't do that without your support. So if you'd like to keep us around, keep us going, it helps us out so much if you can subscribe to Android Police on Twitch. Along with your subscription helping us, you also get access to the infamous Ryan emoji. This gives you extra entries into the AP giveaways. Tiers start at $5 a month, or if you're a Amazon Prime subscriber, then you get a free Twitch Prime subscription that you can use to help us out. It doesn't cost you anything, and well, it's Amazon's way of saying thank you to us. You can head to androidpolice.com to check out stories or find the donate button if you'd like to help us out that way as well. And you can learn more at twitch.tv/androidpolice. And thanks for listening.
Yay. Thank you.
So we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of a series of quick updates, starting off with Adobe's new camera app called Photoshop Camera. It is basically a sort of like filter meets live camera experience. So you can use it just like a regular camera, but it has live effects and that they call lenses, where basically you can do sort of pop art, modified images, and it uses Adobe's technology to sort of pick out subjects and separate them from the background, do special effects with them in real time. It's an odd effect. They've already collaborated with Billie Eilish to do a couple of specific limited edition lenses, and yeah, it basically imagine kind of like Instagram on acid and steroids at the same time. So
Yeah.
they're doing a test version of this right now, or sorry, rather they're testing with a small group of people right now, and you can sign up to try to get into the test group, though it seems like they're being really limited about how they're doing this, and they're planning on rolling the app out to everyone in 2020, and that'll be on Android and iOS.
I'm
So
wondering what this does to desecrate the Photoshop brand. That's just my personal opinion, but go ahead.
oh, yeah, it's an interesting possibility. I don't know that it will hurt the Photoshop brand so much as it's just going to be one of those things people look at and say, "Really? Why?
Yeah.
Just why?" To be fair,
Well,
I mean,
I don't mean to be the bad guy in this situation. That's supposed to be a joke for people that listen to Billie Eilish, but okay.
okay,
Yeah,
I don't know the reference.
she has a single called "Bad Guy" out. So yeah, listen to
Okay.
that if you want. It's cool. I don't know. It feels like we're in an overpopulated market for crazy camera effects, and you know, perhaps this this is going to be the smarter app out of the many out there. But I don't know. Did we really need this today, tomorrow, a year from now? Um,
I mean, I have nothing against the idea of doing like very heavy effect modification on photos. Like that's fine. If you want to filter your photos, go ahead. I think maybe they're over pushing it, especially in the fact that if you look at samples of this, what strikes me is this isn't just like a photoshopping effect. Like this isn't just lightweight stuff. This is very heavy tweaks to photos. So I think if anything, that's what's going to kind of make this app look it'll be a really neat trend for the very short time that it is in. I don't want to go so far as to call it a fad because this could be the starting point to something much bigger, but it does feel very fad-like at this moment.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, better than what other people have, but at some point it'll just be another app that takes up space, and you'll remember to delete it in never. But that's why I don't know. Perhaps you can bundle it as part of a Creative Cloud Suite subscription. That's a
Well,
great idea, right?
and that's what I was about to ask is I
Uh,
wonder how they're planning on monetizing this because it could be a paid app, but knowing Adobe, they're really, really keen on trying to get people into Creative Cloud. So anything they can use to sort of reel you in, that's what they're doing with Adobe Rush. That's what they're doing with oh, I can't even think of the name of the other. Lightroom. Uh,
Lightroom Light.
yeah, so everything is always kind of about reeling people into the Creative Cloud subscription, and as a result, we're just seeing the typical bring more people in approach, but that doesn't mean everything will be that way. So I'm curious what their plan is with this one.
Yeah, well, to save you the time, it's probably not going to go too far. So there you go. That's the short summary of it. Speaking of saving time, mm,
Oh yeah. So Wear OS, if you if you wear a Wear OS device, you may have noticed a little bit of a time oops over the last few days. So
which
we
is
just
worse
had
than time
daylight.
loops because you don't have the Doctor Who effect. You don't get to follow him around and play with the sonic screwdriver. But go ahead.
So we just had daylight savings time kick over this last weekend, and for whatever reason, some Wear OS devices did not update properly. They basically just stuck to the old times or the old daylight saving time setting. And apparently you could fix this with a reboot, or I think I read a few other means that typically caused it to trigger. But regardless, it was apparently just a bug that's keeping them from automatically switching, which I wonder a little bit because I have seen this theorized. It may actually have something to do with the phone that they're connected to because some phones handle that time switch a little differently too.
Or perhaps it's just that the always on display is on a different, like they didn't even splice in that little bit of code that says, hey, you should probably check the state of the main watch, as opposed to, I don't know. It's just, you know, I'd hate to think that Google spent $2.1 billion in making sure that they got Fitbit and didn't take care of the platform that they already have.
Yeah, I would just chalk this up to probably a weird combination of software issues that could individually have not mattered, but they all played together to create this one oddball bug. Regardless, I have a feeling it will very likely be fixed before we uh switch back in what is it about 4 months,
Yeah.
and B, I have a feeling just in general we're not going to hear about this again. This is going to be a good laugh for 10 minutes and it'll be over.
We could start now if you want.
It's fair enough.
Okay. So now, do you want to head to art class?
Well, somebody certainly has. If you are a user of the Microsoft Edge browser, guess what? You're going to see a new icon someday. Probably not too far from now. Figure next few days, next few weeks, something like that. Because Microsoft Edge has been given a new logo. Microsoft unveiled it just a few days ago, and well, in my opinion, it basically looks like somebody took the Firefox logo. I think I may be wrong, but I think Opera also recently took on something that looks a little bit like this too.
Hold on, let me look it up.
And just in general, it looks weirdly familiar, like way, way too familiar. It still sort of has the lowercase e shape to it ish, but not really so much anymore. It's kind of unrecognizable compared to the old logo, in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, it's a new logo. Cheers to that.
Yeah, finally. No more stupid E with the band around it that reminds you of Internet Explorer and those good old days when you never used it.
Yeah, I think that's almost exactly it. Is they're really just trying to separate from the old look. And some people attribute this, actually, maybe they said this, I'm not quite sure, but there is some attribution to now that they're switching to Chrome, or rather Chromium, as their rendering system, it's not too surprising that they wanted to change the branding and just generally refresh the look.
So Silwonk in the chat is well, I got some image results that don't work out, but they're reminded of Google Wave when they see this this little new logo here, and I guess I can sort of see it because it's there's always a there's always a design school aspect of a negative space and how edges act when delineating different surfaces and logos. There's like an overlaid effect, like a C conch in the new Microsoft Edge thing. They also have it in the Opera logo now, where it's like there's a cutout where the lines of the O overlap. It's like a Mobius strip or something. Like, man, I can't describe it. I have words, but they can't be formed into the right sequence to make sense. It's interesting.
Yeah. So, the thing that strikes me is it's looking just a lot more like every other browser icon, which is kind of it's an odd thing. I think if anything, Microsoft would have wanted to make something that looks a little bit different, a little less with the trends. But hey, whatever.
Well,
I don't know.
are
To me, it's still an icon.
It's just an icon. It's only ever going to be 128 by 128 in your imagination.
Unless it becomes animated.
Well, GIFs can be also in that size as well. But yeah, we'll see about that, I think. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you for listening to the show. We've been doing this for over 7 years now, and we've been trying out this new format for the past month, 3 times weekly for the podcast, including the Q&A. We're on air 4 times a week now. What do you think of the podcast? What do you like about it? Any elements that you dislike? We would love to hear your thoughts. So we have a survey up right now that lets you share your opinion with us. It is at bit.ly/survey and PO. That's survey ANDPO. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. It only takes 10 minutes or less. And there's a link if you are listening to us right now in the show description. Or if you're watching us, there's also one in the Twitch description. It's in the description. You'll see it. It's fine. Always, as always, you can send your thoughts as well to podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, Cody is at Cody_TOOMBS. Our producer, Jules Wong, that's me, is at Point Jules. And our theme music is by Home. See y'all on Wednesday for another show, but till then, enjoy your week. Hold on. There we go.